All right, today we're tackling a really controversial system. We're going to break down step by step the financial and legal structure of the Palestinian Authority's prisoner payment system. You might have heard it called the Martyrs Fund. And we're doing this by looking directly at their own official laws and budget documents.
So, to really get a handle on how this all works, let's start with a pretty wild question. What if a prison sentence wasn't really a punishment, but a career path? Seriously, a path with a guaranteed salary, a government job waiting for you when you get out, and even a higher social status? That's the core idea we're really going to dig into here.
Okay, let's start with the most obvious part, the money. We're going to look at the actual salary scale, because that really shows you how the financial incentives are all set up. Now, before we get into the numbers, we need some perspective, right? A baseline. So an average civil servant in the West Bank, someone with a regular government desk job, they make about $800 a month. Just lock that number in your head for a second. Okay, got that $800 figure? Now look at this. The maximum monthly salary for a Palestinian prisoner is $3,300. That is, wow, that's more than 4 times what the average government worker makes. So the big question is, how on earth does a prisoner get to that top-tier salary? Well, this chart here, it lays out the whole thing. And it is definitely not random. It's a super structured tiered system. You can see it right there. The longer the prison sentence, the higher the monthly pay. So a 3 to 5 year sentence gets you about $540 a month. But if you get a sentence over 30 years, which, is usually for the most severe acts, that's when you hit that top salary of $3,300 a month. The key thing to see here is that the system is literally designed to pay more for longer sentences. But believe it or not, that monthly salary, that's just the beginning. The system is built to take care of you long after you're out of prison, giving you security and status. Let's look at what's basically a prize package you get upon release. So picture this. You're released and you walk out with some pretty life-changing benefits. First, you get a lump sum of all that salary money that's been piling up for years, maybe even decades. Second, and this is a huge one, you are legally guaranteed a government job. Third, it's not just some entry-level gig. Your rank is actually based on how long you were in prison. And to top it all off, you've got a clear path to owning your own home, which for a lot of regular folks is just a distant dream. And look, this isn't just some unwritten rule, it's written right into the law. This quote from the amended prisoner law is pretty staggering. It says flat out that a prisoner who served 25 years is automatically given the rank and the salary of a major general or a deputy minister. Just let that sink in. The amount of time you spend in prison literally dictates how high up you start in the government. And this comparison really drives home the gap it creates. For your average citizen, buying a home means years and years of saving up on that modest income we talked about. But for a released prisoner, it's a whole different story. Someone who was in for 20 years could walk out with over $300,000 in back pay. And get this, if a family home was demolished, they can get what are called reconstruction grants to rebuild, and often they end up building something bigger and better. Okay, so we've seen the laws and the salary scales, but what does this actually look like for real people? Let's take a look at a few case studies to see the kind of money we're really talking about for individuals convicted of some very serious acts.
This table really brings it all into focus. I mean, look at the case of Hakeem Awad, who was convicted of murdering the Fogel family. With his sentences, his projected lifetime payout is almost $2 million. Or Abdullah Barghouti, who is behind multiple bombings. He's already been paid over $200,000 so far. Then you have the Yunus cousins. When they were released after 40 years, they reportedly got a lump sum of about $100,000 each, and that's on top of all the salary they'd already collected over the decades.
So when you see these payouts, you have to ask, how is this even possible? How is this legal?
Well, a system this complex doesn't just happen. It was built, piece by piece, with official laws. Let's look at the actual legal framework holding this whole thing up. This timeline really tells the story. It all started back in 2004 with the law of the prisoner. That's what set up the monthly salaries and, crucially, legally defined prisoners as a fighting sector. Then, in 2013, they amended the law to add in those guaranteed high-ranking government jobs. Fast forward to 2018, and the U.S. steps in with the Taylor Force Act, basically saying, we'll cut your aid until you stop these payments. The Palestinian Authority refused. And now, there are reports that they might be trying to move the payments over to the PLO, which is a different legal entity, maybe as a way to get around sanctions without actually stopping the payments.
So when you step back and look at all the pieces, the salaries, the jobs, the laws, what you really see is a whole self-contained economy. And it's an economy built on a very specific and legally defined idea.
And this right here is the absolute key. It's that term from the 2004 law, fighting sector. That's not just some political slogan. It's the official legal classification. And it changes everything. Because from the PA's legal point of view, these prisoners aren't criminals being punished. No, they are considered soldiers of the state who are being compensated for their service.
All right, so let's boil this all down. What are the main takeaways? First, there's a clear, tiered salary system that pays more for more severe crimes. Second, the perks go way beyond prison. We're talking guaranteed top-tier jobs and a clear path to owning a home. Third, none of this is informal. It's all written down and protected by official PA law. And finally, you put all that together, and you've got a separate state-sponsored economy just for prisoners.
And that really brings us full circle. We've gone through the mechanics, the money, the laws. But it all leaves us with a much bigger question, one to really think about. When a state's own laws create direct financial incentives for violence, what's the ultimate price?